Welcome to Wednesday Wisdoms. My name is Sera Doğramacı. I am the Ice Hockey Australia Goaltending Development Manager, and today I have with me Ted Monnich, who is a sports psychology consultant and mental skills coach. Welcome, Ted.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
It was so good having you here today. I'm so glad you could make it. I would like to start off with, sports psychology consultant and mental skills coach. What's the difference?
Well, a mental skills coach falls within the domain of a sports psychology consultant. Sports psychology consultant deals with a lot more of the psychology of sport and exercise than just mental skills training. But most of my work with my goalie athletes, my clients, is teaching them the mental skills that can help them manage the challenges that come with their sport, their position.
Oh, excellent. Okay, we'll go into that in a little bit more detail later on. But what is your hockey background? Why did you choose the goaltending path, and what did you play growing up?
Sure. I started playing ice hockey when I was 10 years old because a rink opened in my town in Pennsylvania in the United States. And all of my buddies did that as well. And at that age, no one was declared what their position was. You simply went out there and everyone tried out everything, which is pretty impressive for that time. That was 1971, a long time ago. I'm an old goalie. After about the first year, I really liked the look of the gear, like a lot of goalies, and I wanted to try that. And I did, and I just fell in love with everything about it. So I started, I was 10 years old, and I wasn't very good. But when adolescence kicked in, I became more athletic, and I did become pretty good. And I played throughout high school and had some degree of success. I took time off to go to college. I went to a school that didn't have hockey. And also, this was at a time still when you didn't have the kinds of elite junior hockey in North America that we have today. There's a tremendous amount available today. But eventually I returned to playing recreationally, but I had some skill. But I decided I wanted more skill, and I found a goalie coach in London, Ontario, and I went to work with him, and I worked with him for a long time, and he helped my game transition to a more modern game as it has evolved, and I continued to play recreationally until I caught the eye of our local ECHL team, which is a triple-A, or I'm sorry, double-A minor pro, but we were 2 steps below the NHL. And they called me up to take the place of an injured goalie. And they liked my performance, and so they kept calling me up for that. And so I continued to do that. And the next season rolled around, they did the same thing, and we were the affiliates of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Their starter, Vesa Toskala, tore his groin very badly, required surgery. I was called up again. I was up for more than a month, and that required them to give me a contract, and suddenly I was a professional goalie. And they kept me. Other teams actually were scouting me in other leagues. But so I stayed with that and had a tremendously good time. I was really, really good at opening the door for the bench, and was delighted to be there. I told the coach at the time, look, I've got some software that I had got for goalie coaching that I said, I can break down game footage for you. He said, really? He said, yeah. I didn't know how much he wanted me to do this. I later found out how much he wanted me to do this, because if I could break down game footage, he could go home to his wife. And so he brought me on to do that. And I had another job with the team. And the next season he said, look, why don't you just stay and come onto the ice with me and be my assistant coach? And that transitioned directly into coaching. Now, as I said, I've been a goalie since I was 10. There were no goalie coaches when I started. There were no goalie coaches 10 years after I started. But like I said, I went and started working with a goalie coach in Ontario. And within a year, he said, please come and coach with us. And that started a 10-year goalie coaching career with this school in London, Ontario. And I continued goalie coaching even though as I was an assistant head coach in the minors, especially in the summers, you go out and do your camps and clinics and such. And so I became in demand for that. And then after a period with the ECHL team, we had a new goalie come in, which is not unusual every season. This was a really good goalie, a man named Todd Ford, and he was signed to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And he had been trained by a goalie coach named Ian Clark in Calgary. And Ian's school was called the Goaltending Development Institute, or GDI. They had a new coach that wanted a foot in the door. He came to our team, and I had already known about them, having read their very technical literature, and thought I would love to coach with these people, and that door opened for me. I've been coaching with GDI now for almost 15 years, and it's a very advanced school and program, and even into Europe and such. But and that coaching brings me down to today.
That's fascinating. I love the story and just how one thing led to another, and the coaching really took off for you. I know you've done, I mean, aside from being in the States and then lots of coaching in Canada, I know you've been elsewhere around the world, right?
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about where coaching has taken you, what kind of experiences you've had?
Sure. I love to travel, and I love to experience other cultures. That means I'm a xenophile. I like things that are different. And if I can combine hockey with that, well, that's just fabulous. And being in the hockey world as long as I have, you meet a lot of people from a lot of different places, and they love to talk about their homes, their homelands. And so in meeting these people, it's provided me with opportunities to coach in Finland. It's provided me with opportunities to coach in Germany, Slovakia, the Czech Republic, and Turkey, as you know. And I have absolutely adored these opportunities, the experiences I've had, and the people I've met. And I continue to have more invitations, and my only problem is finding the time to do them all. But to go back to the Czech Republic, to go to Austria, these are things that I look forward to doing.
Perfect. Yeah, and I think especially here, because we are such a minority sport, it's almost like you have a greater chance of being able to travel for hockey. So I think it's wonderful, and I'm very fortunate with all the places I've been just because of hockey.
Sure.
Something I want to touch on is your experiences in Turkey. That's where we met, which was it was fantastic. It was a great time. What actually got you to Turkish hockey? Because I know it wasn't really hockey itself that kicked it off.
No, I have a long relationship with Turkey, and it's a second homeland to me by choice. And my wife and I traveled there just for holiday in around 1995, 94, 95. And I fell in love with it. But I'll tell you what struck me was Turkish folk music. I can't explain why. I can't explain why. But it did resonate with me very strongly. And I started studying Turkish folk music. I acquired an instrument. I had Turkish teachers in the United States that taught me this, and then and my wife and I traveled almost every year to Turkey, and I have had teachers in Turkey. And this has gone on for 25 years now. And I've been in a musical group that's had tremendous success in the in all over. We played all over the world, but in the United States, playing Turkish folk music. And but at the same time, my hockey life is going on also. This is, something on the side, sort of. I'm not quite sure what was on the side, where the focus was at the moment. But I heard, oh, I know what it was. It was during one of the NHL lockdowns.
Okay.
One of the player strikes. And USA Hockey, or I'm sorry, Hockey News, the magazine in North America, didn't have a lot to write about. So there was an article about some US service member who formed a hockey team in Turkey. Now, this was a long time ago.
Okay.
But I saw that, and I actually have since met the man. But I saw that and thought, suddenly realized that the bell went off. There's hockey in Turkey, and all of a sudden worlds collide. And it was just a mission of mine. I have to play hockey in Turkey. One way or another, I've got to do something with hockey in Turkey. And I got a hold of Hockey News. I talked to them. They hooked me up with this serviceman and some other people. And I started writing back and forth. And then I think I heard from a mutual friend of ours named Göktürk Taşdemir.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the captain of the Turkish national men's team. And okay, I'm going to be in Istanbul at this time. I'm going to fly down to Ankara, and we're going to meet. And yes, come on the ice and coach with us. Okay, do you need equipment? Because there was that was in the article. Yes, okay. So I went to everybody I knew at home, hundreds of hockey players. Look, I'm going to do this. They don't have equipment. And they're like, what? So everybody's throwing equipment in a bag, and away my wife and I go. We're in Istanbul. We fly down to Ankara with all the gear, and your sister and Esra and Göktürk picked us up at the airport in Ankara, and with all of the bags of equipment, and that was the beginning of that adventure. I met you on the ice there. I think I provided you with a pair of leg pads at the time.
Yes, you did.
And wonderful. And that was the beginning of it. It ended up leading to me lecturing at Ankara University on coaching, and pictures with the head of the federation and all of that. I did it a few times, and then that led me to a season of coaching with the Bosphorus Ice Sport Club.
Oh, so okay, so in Istanbul.
In Istanbul, Boğaziçi Buz Patni Kulübü, and the man that ran that team was also on the national team with Göktürk, Oktay Yavuz Arslan. Was quite a character, and became very close with Oktay and his family. Spent that was 2013. Spent that season in Istanbul coaching with them. And interestingly, from all of my time going to study music there, especially in Istanbul, and I'm becoming very familiar with Istanbul, my wife and I decided to look for a house, a small house. And we started looking in a neighborhood called Yedikule. And we found this beautiful little cottage with a yard and a garden that backed up to the ancient city walls, and it was for sale, and we were interested in it. And I had a friend that lived in Istanbul that I asked, and he could actually live in it when I wasn't living in it. And I asked him to look in on it for me, and then eventually I got the bad news that it was going to be demolished. And I'm so disappointed. And it was being demolished for an ice arena, which is Silivri Kapı Buz Patni. which ended up being the arena that I coached in with the
Okay.
Boston team. So I ended up on that land one way or the other.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have a lot of strange stories about the Istanbul hockey music, all of that, all interwoven. It's been
I
a
think
wonderful adventure.
I think it's brilliant how you've been able to combine those two worlds and just the experiences that you've had. I think it's brilliant that you've actually been able to make it work. Touching on the music,
Yes.
how does that help you in your goalie life?
It was very surprising that it has helped a lot. At a time, so all this music was going on in my life, but at the same time, I'm playing hockey, being paid to play hockey, but I started experiencing a psychological problem playing hockey. I started getting bored in the second period. Started
Okay.
having a problem with my attentional focus. So I started going to a sports psychologist. That door opened.
Okay.
But at the same time, one day I had a band practice before I had a hockey practice. And in the band practice, we were practicing a song from northeastern Turkey. And it was a very difficult song to play. And I practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced. And then I went to practice, hockey practice. And my glove hand was no longer my glove hand. What happened? It was in high gear. I was flashing the leather, making big glove saves. I didn't know what had happened, but was quite delighted. And then a little later, not long, I was at my hockey team's practice. And then that night, I had another practice with my musical group. And at the musical group practice, I was shredding my instrument like Eddie Van Halen. Like, whoa, where did this come from? And then I kind of put two and two together there and thought, hockey, music, hockey. So when I met with my sports psychologist, I said, what's going on? She handed me an article on cross-task facilitation, where doing one thing, in this case with my hands, playing a stringed instrument with my hands, having memorized the music. I'm not reading sheet music, I've memorized it. And when you do this, there are triggers. One thing triggers the next. One line of music triggers the next line of music, triggers the next line of music. And that's all part of our nervous system. Well, when I do that, that part of my nervous system gets really warmed up. In the same way, when a goalie sees a puck leaving the stick of a shooter, that immediately triggers an automatic response of the nervous system that's been learned or memorized. And if it's going to the high glove side, the glove is there. And goalies so often make spectacular glove saves, but to them, they're looking at that glove saying, where did you come from? Just that spectacular save. You don't even know how the glove got there. Well, it's automatic. And the trigger was the stick coming off of the puck coming off of the stick at the velocity, the trajectory. And that's using the same part of the nervous system. So the hockey warms up the nervous system to play music. The music warms up the nervous system to play hockey. This ended up in a few articles written by In Goal magazine and then published on NHL.com. And it included NHL goalies like Henrik Lundqvist. There are several NHL goalies that are very good guitarists. And then it was expanded, and I was interviewed about this for Tuukka Rask. He's a drummer. Can that apply there? And I thought, well, we're talking about the nervous system, and let's think about that. His using his feet for the kick drum, all of this, and even the tempo within it. We have tempos within our game. And you know that when you start playing a game, you immediately zero in on what is the tempo of this game. And sometimes when you're geared up for a faster tempo and it's slower, you might get frustrated as a goalie. And sometimes it's too fast for us and it kind of pulls us along. But this is tempo. So all of these instruments do they utilize our nervous system just as our sports utilize our nervous system, and they can benefit it. I wouldn't say go and be a drummer to be a better goalie. I have said, look, being a guitarist can make you a better goalie. And actually, that pro goalie I mentioned earlier, Todd Ford, he ended up picking up the guitar because of the article I showed him in Goal magazine. I know a few other pro goalies that have done the same thing. So what we're really talking about is our nervous system.
So I was going to, you just answered it, but I was going to ask it, what do you encourage your goalies to do? So even if we step away from music, what are other tasks that they could take on that will help them with their nervous system and help them while they're in net?
Well, they already do a lot of these things. So many goalies like to juggle, and they believe that it's good for their maybe eye-hand acuity, their visual acuity, bouncing balls off of a wall. These are all things that stimulate the nervous system.
Okay.
But can we make the nervous system respond faster? And yes, but we have to make the task harder.
Okay.
We have to make the goalie strain to accomplish it. So that might mean causing a degree of sensory deprivation, reducing their sight. This is something Mitch Korn did a lot, and there are various devices now that have been designed for goalies to train with this. Even just putting impediments up in front of the rink, for the goalie to try to see around the players. What you're causing your mind to do is to fill in the gaps of the trajectory of the puck. The gap is the player. You can't see through the player, but if you can see the puck released from the stick, your mind can form that trajectory. But we have to train ourselves to have the ability to do this, and that is then expanding that mental capacity.
So then touching on talking about the mind and the mental skills, how that really took off for you. It's such a broad area. To you then, is there one area that's more important than the other, or one that goalies should be focusing on, or is something like this very much dependent on the individual themselves?
I will first say that it is all very individualistic. It's very dependent on the individual. Every one of us are so unique. And the challenges that one faces may not be the same as the challenges another faces, or at least those challenges aren't as great for one as another. And that's just a matter of our individuality. Mm-hmm. But there is a group of generalized challenges from which mental skills have been developed to address. And they're all trained, they're all taught. But when I meet with a client, perhaps a new client, what I want to talk with them first about is what they're struggling with, what their weaknesses are, so that we can address that. And that often leads us on an adventure a very personal adventure of theirs, of learning. One thing will lead to another, not that one weakness belies another weakness, but in learning this particular skill, now it makes sense to learn this skill, as it will reinforce the other and it addresses the exact needs of that individual. Does this make sense?
It absolutely makes sense. And I think just by saying that one thing leads to another, it's very much how your life has shaped itself.
Yes, very much.
Right?
So. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so with that, I know something that that you are focusing on is meditation.
Mm-hmm.
So why meditation? Is it something that that you recommend for everyone? Is there why, how, what, all those questions rolled into one?
Sure. For me, I first learned meditation in 1993. And I didn't learn it for my hockey. I learned it because I got tired for my brain just having these runaway thoughts and just constant flow of thoughts and thinking and worry and nervousness, anxiety. It was overwhelming and I was unhappy. And I was literally walking down a street and I saw a sign that said Dharma Dhatu Meditation Center. And this was a Tibetan Buddhist meditation center. And I walked in the door, went up to the desk and said, I want to shut up my brain. Can you help me? They said, sure. Show up at 7 o'clock on Wednesday night. We'll teach you how to meditate and we'll have meditation sessions. And I started doing that every Wednesday and Sunday. They taught me how to do just simple sitting and breathing meditation. Maybe after a few months, I said, do you want to talk about Buddhism? They said, no, just sit, just meditate. And it was never about any spiritualism. It was about just controlling the mind, gaining awareness of the mind. Right now, in popular society, there's a very popular term called mindfulness. And all mindfulness means is self-awareness. And when we meditate, we cultivate mindfulness. We cultivate awareness of what our mind is doing. And instead of being caught up in what it does, we actually see it in an objective, detached way. And then we can determine, I see that I'm having this thought about being nervous about tonight's game. Do I want to indulge in that? Or do I want to just let that go for now and focus on what I'm doing right now? So often our thoughts will distract us from being present in the moment. So for a goalie, when you're playing in a game, you need to be 100% present in that moment. You cannot be distracted by that weak goal that bounced off of your defenseman's shin a minute ago, though you're worried you can't get your mind off of it. You keep looking at the bench as the coach giving me the evil eye. You keep thinking about it, but it's gone. It's gone. But we have to have our focus right in the present. 100% in the present. We need all of that energy. We can't expend any of that energy or that focus on worrying about the next period. We're worrying about who's at the other end of the rink. We have to be completely present right now in this moment, goaltending. Well, that's what meditation is. It trains our mind how to be present in the moment. And goaltending is a perfect example of that. But when we do let that weak goal in, we're angry at ourselves, we're angry at our defenseman, we're worried, we're upset, we're embarrassed. We can't hold on, we can't dwell in this. They're going to drop the puck. I got to be on my game. Well, we have our training in meditation that lets us realize, there's these emotions, there's these thoughts. I need to just let them go and reset and ready to go. Drop the puck. Here I am. Focus on the next shot. That's all there is. So this meditation forms the foundation of our mental practice, our mental skills practice. We establish that strong foundation of self-awareness, of being aware of what our mind is doing. So instead of our mind controlling us with whatever thoughts might come, whatever emotions might come, we begin to control our mind by determining what emotions or thoughts that arise that we choose to indulge. And it's the hardest mindfulness practice, but you know, that's it. And so one of the problems with mental skills work is that the goalie can't see it happening. What's going on and where's it happening? Is it in here? What is in here? Is that me in there? Is that my mind? Where is my mind? This is my brain. What's going on? And so there's a lot of misunderstanding and even fear about this idea of mental skills training. We're doing something mental. Does that mean I'm crazy? Well, you're a goalie. That might answer the question. But what with this meditation is a perfect way to start to realize, how does this affect me? Because every time that we're doing this meditation and a thought arises and we recognize it, even if we're carried along by it for 20 seconds and I'm down the road, or I'm meeting with someone, talking with someone, thinking about someone in this thought, I suddenly realize, oh, I'm thinking, I'm supposed to be meditating. We catch that in that way, that thought, we just label it thinking and let it go. That is one repetition of weightlifting. That is one rep. To identify the thought occurring and let it go. That's one rep. So I'll have student meditators come to me at the end of the session just so frustrated. I couldn't stop the thoughts. We don't want to stop them. It's not about not thinking. It's about identifying them and letting them go. Because the more thoughts there are, the more repetitions there are. The more repetitions we do, the stronger we get. So there's the actual correlation of mental skills training to physical conditioning, of mental conditioning to physical conditioning. Every time that we gain awareness of our thoughts, of what our mind is doing, we gain mindfulness and we make ourselves more mentally strong. So that, and we don't do this before a game or in a game, we do it in the morning after we wake up. But when we're in the game and that goal gets scored on us, or another player, a player on the other team bumps us hard in our crease, what do you mean? That would always set me off. We just go, nah, he's trying to get under my skin. And we just laugh at him. So he looks back over his shoulder like, oh, you're crazy. So, we don't let that make us angry. They're trying to make us angry and throw us off of our game, to make our focus shift. But we recognize it right away. That's what they try to do. I'm not going to fall for that. That was a weak goal. That's okay. I got the next one. We recognize these situations that tend to throw us off. And that's what this practice, this meditation does, is gives us the ability to very quickly recognize that this is a situation where I tend to lose my focus. I tend to get carried away. Or even I might tend to get angry because the guy bumped me. And that increases my level of psychological and physiological arousal so as to push me out of my zone of optimal functioning. That's a theory that was formed by a Soviet psychologist named Yuri Hanin. That is that the place, the zone, where's your zone? It's different than my zone, but that place where we're just right there, just so comfortable, ready to go, happy, relaxed, everything hits us. We're in our zone of optimal function. But if you get angry, you'll get pushed out of it, and you'll lose that focus, that being in the zone. And if we're too tired or lackadaisical, we haven't reached it. But these are all things that's going off on another road of sports psychology.
And I could ask you so many more questions with that. But you did mention that meditation, it's the foundation of mental skills. So that being the case, is there a minimum age to start meditation? Would say an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old goalie, is that something that they should do? Or is this more, when they're 13, 14 years old? Or
it is very individualistic, and for the past 3 months I've been working with a 10-year-old who has been practicing this twice a week. His dad's sitting there doing it too, but whatever the motivation is. But the dad told me that since they went into quarantine with the pandemic, he struggled with his online schooling. But since he started doing the meditation, it's improved.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, so hopefully it has contributed to his success. I think an 8-year-old, it might be difficult, but we would say, well, they can't focus. Well, why can't they focus? And this in itself might give them the ability to focus. Mm-hmm. So it's not thinking about this is going to make him a better goalie at this point. We're working with the nervous system. But also a 10-year-old goalie, an 11-year-old goalie, their nervous system isn't fully formed. And when I see a goalie coach or a head coach say, oh, that kid's no good, he's not athletic. I'm like, dude, he doesn't have a whole nervous system yet. Let him play, let him have fun. But at the same time, with this meditation, I have taught it to NHL goalies.
Okay.
And they've practiced it. And then a week or a month later, I'll see them go, hey, how's your practice going? I stopped doing that. One pro goalie said to me, it's kind of cheesy. I went, okay, no problem, no problem. A month later, he called me and said, hey, can we review that again? This guy's retired now, but he meditates more than me. I was walking through the concourse of an arena between periods. This beautiful young woman ran up to me and who's this? Oh, it's his fiance. And she said, don't stop doing that Zen thing you do. He's never been easier to live with.
Wow. Okay.
So, what this says there is that we don't have a hockey brain and the rest of our life brain. We're starting to, as we become more mentally conditioned, we are able to manage the challenges of life, not just the challenges of goaltending. And so life might get a little easier. But at the same time, I tell my clients, I can't whisper a magic word in your ear and suddenly life becomes unicorns and rainbows. Life is still going to be challenging, but these skills will enable you to manage them better.
I think unicorns and rainbows would be lovely, but I think you've also just highlighted that it is a skill that needs to be learned itself, actual meditation. So, just as on the ice, we keep practicing certain skills to be better at it, it would be the same thing with meditation and any sort of mental skills training, I suppose. So, you try it once and maybe it doesn't have immediate results and people give up, but you just highlight, you come back a month later and let's review that again. Let's keep working on this. So I think that's something that's important to note as well, that it's not going to be magic. It's not going to be the unicorns and rainbows instantly, but the more we work at these things, the better we become at them, right?
Exactly. And that goes for all mental skills, whether it is imagery or visualization, emotional control, arousal control, but even more mundane tasks like effective goal setting and such.
Absolutely.
While that might be just writing things on a piece of paper, what it does starts to change how we think about what we're doing and how we actually start to gain control of our careers and taking it, not leaving it in the hands of others. So, but it all takes practice. It all does. These are all skills, and they all feel foreign or uncomfortable when we start them. Just as if we started taking piano lessons, it would be very uncomfortable. But after a month of it, we kind of know where the notes are. And it's the same thing with this. Anything new is different and uncomfortable. But tremendous benefits come from it.
Absolutely. Goal setting is something I'm working on with goalies at the moment. And with some of them, we're on their third attempt at it. They'll start with something broad, and now we're working on actually making it more specific, turning it into SMART goals. And it's something I do for myself, as I slowly retire. I'm shift my focuses to coaching and just career-wise, setting myself my own goals. So that's something that we're working on goalies with at the moment. I think laying out what it is you want to achieve, and then, all right, what's the path to get there?
And often the path to get there will themselves be goals. But the way I personally do that, I'll share with you, is that we look at that. Okay, what's that? What is let's not say a long range goal of I want to play in the NHL. That's not realistic, and that may not be achievable in looking at SMART goals. But do you want to be the starter on your team in the next season? Okay, that's realistic. That might be achievable. Now let's ask the hard question: why aren't you? Why aren't you the starter? And that starts to reveal the interim goals. Well, I give up too many rebounds. Okay, there's a goal: rebound control. Sometimes I don't track the puck well. And these are all technical skills, or it might be I lose focus, or I get upset. Okay, these are mental skills. Or maybe it's I get too tired or I'm not fast enough. Well, that might be conditioning, that might be nutrition. But we can start identifying them. But okay, I want to be the starter. Why aren't you?
Mm.
And the whys, there's the hard list. What are my weaknesses? Facing what we're told to avoid. Because, so if I were to say one sentence that described my philosophy, this is a statement by a scholar named Joseph Campbell. And that sentence is, where you stumble, there lies your treasure. And that's it. If you can identify your weaknesses and then resolve them, each time you resolve that weakness, each time you work on rebound control until you don't give up bad rebounds, you have just made yourself stronger. The opposite of weakness. You've eliminated a weakness. You get stronger. And that means every time we identify a weakness, we get stronger. Our potential increases. And where do goalies best identify their weaknesses? Goals against.
In the games, yeah.
What's the worst thing that can happen to a goalie? A goal against. But the silver lining of that is, there lies your treasure. So we don't want to avoid them. We have to analyze them. We have to embrace them and resolve them. That's why we have goalie coaches. And then we start getting better. And so what comes with that then, psychologically, is intrinsic motivation. We're training because I'm going to work on my rebound control because I can get better. I want to get better. That becomes what we love, is constantly improving and experiencing that. Yeah.
It's such a fascinating area, and to me, honestly, I think mental skills is the most important of the skills a goalie should have. So you can have, the physical skills, your height, your body mass, all those sorts of things. You can have the technical skills, the tactical skills, but I think mental skills needs to take priority, and it's not, oh, but we're crazy goalies and we need to get that under control. It's to be able to perform under pressure when it counts. So with that, I would like to talk about the research studies you've been doing. So start doing your doctoral studies, so your PhD. What are you doing? What's the aim? Are there any results so far that you could perhaps share with us?
Sure. Well, it's exactly what we've been talking about. My dissertation is called Mental Skills Training for Ice Hockey Goalies.
Brilliant.
And what I am doing in this is I'm actually surveying and interviewing adult goalies, 18 and over, and that has to do with the whole research process. It's hard to do research with minors. So I'm working with really the most elite goalies, but these are also the goalies that have experienced the greatest challenges. And I'm asking them, what are your greatest challenges? What are your challenges? Now, I've been a goalie. I know what my challenges are. You've been a goalie. You know what your challenges are. But there has not been, and this is through my research, I have not been able to find a single evidence-based study on the challenges faced by goalies. And that evidence-based aspect is essential. That is the foundation of modern science. So we're doing a scientific study of the challenges faced by goalies. And then from that, through my professional experience, my expertise, and the body of research that exists, evidence-based research on mental skills, we're then selecting the best mental skills to apply to all those challenges that 100 or so goalies have said, this is what I face. And That's my research. But we're doing this in an evidence-based way. Now, last year I did a preliminary study doing the same thing, but it wasn't, I learned from doing that study of how to make my current research better. But from that study, we found that there were just a few challenges that seemed to line up for most goalies. Attentional focus, and which is concentration, being present in the moment, not being distracted. I'm trying to think of the other now. And what we found with these is there's a direct correlation about how they affect performance. So we did find in the preliminary study, there's a great commonality. And this was done at the Global Goaltending Retreat in Breckenridge, Colorado, where I distributed written surveys. And then we also had focus groups, and I sat with goalies and coaches and heard from them on that. And now, because of the pandemic, we can't do that. So what I will be doing in the next month is sending out online surveys to all of these goalies and goalie coaches. I'm including goalie coaches because they offer a very unique perspective. Number one, they tend to have been at goalies with a lot of experience, but also they are the ones working with the goalies throughout the season, and they are witnessing these mental challenges. They're hearing about these mental challenges. So we're not just getting it from the goalies, we're getting it from the goalie coaches, and then doing both quantitative and qualitative data analysis to determine, what's going on here. What will come from that? What will come from that, though? I want this to be an applied thing. I don't want this to go into a scientific journal, get put on a shelf, and the goalies never see it. How many goalies read scientific journal articles? None, except for me, because I'm a PhD. Well, so the point of this, it will be what is called a translational document. It is being written for the athlete. The results are written for the athlete. And this may very well be a laminated booklet that the goalies can keep in their equipment bag. And after a rough game, they can pull that out and look for the challenge, and then look, this is how we deal with this. A simple cookbook that here it is, here's the information. To normalize this as one more facet of the goalie's game. To destigmatize this as being something mental. No, it is a skill just like a butterfly save. And so that it's applied and used and embraced. No longer is it something out there in the ether. Nope, it's a book. Look, I got this booklet. It may be in that format. We haven't settled on that, but that is what my research is about right now. I've got lots of other research things, and something we touched on, or something we've both said, goalies are crazy. That is, who says that most? Head coaches. And that is a microaggression that goalies face constantly. And what I've found simply in my experience is that there is a degree of implicit bias against goalies by head coaches. And I've seen this manifest in several ways. So this is, we finished the mental skills research first so that I can be Dr. Ted. But what's next is, I think, this study on implicit bias against goaltenders, and that microaggression of simply saying goalies are crazy. We laugh and chuckle at it, but also it stigmatizes goalies, and it stigmatizes mental skills. Yeah,
absolutely. And I would like us to, in a sense, not view goalies as crazy. I know for me personally, I embrace that. I'm, not that you call me crazy, let's see crazy. But just with the little things we do, we are a little bit different. We wear different equipment to the rest of the players. We have different preparation. We have a different role on the team. We have a different language in the way, the terminology we use on the ice. So, it's not about being crazy. but we are a little bit different in what we do, and that needs to be embraced.
We sure are, but we're the most important player on the team.
Oh, absolutely. You can't play without goalies.
Exactly. But also, I became aware of this with one of my clients who was a pro on a team that was struggling. And I said, look, you're the veteran. Stand up and tell the guys in the room. He said, no way. I've got a bigger stall. I've got a different jersey. I mean, a larger jersey. I've got different equipment. I've got my own coach. I know they all consider me an inconvenience. I'm not going to stand up and single myself out. Well, he should have been able to, but there is that sense of, I don't necessarily want to stand out here. And so that's for study in the future, but I've given it a lot of thought and even developed research methods to be able to survey coaches to determine their implicit bias. I'm sure you've experienced in your education implicit bias tests.
Absolutely.
And they're very frustrating. And you think the whole time, I have no implicit bias. And you finish the test and it said, you are so biased. And so we'll use these same means to determine that. So it's another form of research. Other areas that I'm passionate about are something called peak performance or flow state. And this is an altered state of consciousness that comes from great challenges, but having a degree of mastery. This is a very, very esoteric and difficult thing to study, but it's something that we want to be able to facilitate in our athletes. It's the ultimate goal of mental skills training. So another area of my research.
And there are so many different areas that we'd all like to explore, and I would love to keep talking to you about all day. But I know with your doctorate, we still have a little bit of time until we see something in the physical form, something that we can read. So I want to wish you all the best with that. I look forward to it. I look forward to implementing some of your findings into our goalie world here to help our athletes. And I would just really like to thank you for your time today. It's been a fascinating talk. It's always wonderful chatting to you. There's always so much to learn. So thank you so much for your time today, Ted.
Thank you, Sarah. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too.